Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I like to discuss the news that another of Brexit lies continues to be exposed as, for the second year running, the UK has lost out on the top spot for foreign inward investment in Europe. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, for the best part of 2 decades, the UK was the #1 destination for foreign investment in Europe, bar none. Our position within the EU, along with our strong service-driven economy, made us an ideal place to set up for business. Many warned that leaving the EU would come at a cost of that inward investment. Nonsense, said the Brexiteers. Will be a great place for global business to set up. This would be in the same way that people are now showing us what Jacob Rees-Mogg in the Daily Express said, that food and clothes will become 20% cheaper after Brexit, where in fact they're going up in price. I mean, maybe some believed it. Perhaps some thought that deregulation, the deregulation that would inevitably come with Brexit under the Conservatives, would attract a lot of investment. But I think they were probably missing the point of 2 key reasons for setting up in the UK. Okay, sure, for purely accessing the UK market, there are advantages to a business being in a country where a blind eye will be turned to standards, employment rights and corporation tax. But if a business wants to invest heavily in Europe, it presumably wants access to the continental market. It's no good setting up somewhere we can't actually sell to the Europeans very easily. Now, by setting up in Britain at this point, that business faces barriers to trade with the single market. Why bother setting up in a European country at all if the barriers to trade are just as high, if not higher, than if you set up in your own country outside of Europe? Setting up a branch in another country is a pain. You have to manage the facilities and staff remotely. You need to make sure that you're complying with another country's laws and systems. There's a lot of work involved for which you'll need to get a return. So until recently, the UK was the #1 destination for this investment. As I say, every single year, the UK attracted more foreign investors than any other country in Europe. This has now changed. In 2019, France took over. In 2020, France is still at the top. And this is not explained by the pandemic. The pandemic did not exist in 2019. And it also hit France very badly in 2020 as well. In fact, France has been making almost as much of an arse of COVID as the UK has in many ways. Both countries have seen investment following the global trend. Of course, that's down. We're not suggesting, because investment is down, that's Brexit's fault. But this is a comparison between 2 countries that have been hit very hard by the pandemic. And in 2019, not at all. What investment was coming was being diverted away from the UK and more towards France. Hasn't spread itself out evenly across the EU, as was the case for financial services. And the reason for this, I think, can be related to where the power exists. See, when the UK was an EU member, we were one of the big 3 economies. Yes, I know that in theory, each member of the council has an equal say because they can all veto trade deals or the rest of it. But in terms of other things, that's not really how politics works. Germany, the UK and France were the big members, and we basically got our way. Nothing would go through unless we were in favour of it. And this is important for investors because if you set up in an influential country and you generate a lot of jobs, then all of a sudden your company's interests are that government's interests. And that government will promote your interests in the EU corridors of power. Set up in Portugal or Sweden, sure, you have that single market access. In theory, you have all the benefits of being in an EU country. And that's big enough for many who want to set up operations to sell in Europe, which is why you do get businesses setting up in these other EU countries. But if you also feel the need for some high-level lobbying, you set yourself up in the territory of a particularly influential member. I remember the smoking industry used to do this in Britain, didn't it? It took decades for us to slowly legislate against the promotion of smoking, because the tobacco lobby was very cunning. They would set up their factories in marginal constituencies so that they were employing people in seats that could go either way. That way they could browbeat governments into not giving them an excessively hard time, or it'd be like, it would cost them the election. It'd be like saying, What, you want to put all these people out of work? What, in this constituency? You know, you've got a majority of about 300. We employ about 500 people there. Really? You want to do that? No, they didn't want to do that. But the UK not only doesn't have easy access to sell to the rest of Europe now, I mean, even that so-called trade agreement with Norway comes with barriers, but the UK also has no say over future EU regulations. A business that fears falling foul of such moves gains no benefit in setting up in dear old Blight anymore. Even if it thought that it could still trade with Europe and it'd be okay, it'd be worth it, they'd be thinking to themselves, well, what if regulations come into play in a few years' time that's going to hurt our business model? Because when they invest, they're investing for the long term, for a few years at least. But France is one of the major powers in the EU. In fact, arguably it's now more powerful, because it used to be one of the big three, now it's one of the big two. So now, in order to get its way, it only really has to persuade Germany, ultimately. Not has to, you know, get the UK on board as well. France's influence isn't just more than the UK's is now, that's a given. It's more than even pre-Brexit France's was, I suspect. And this makes it much more attractive to investors who want a powerful voice acting for them in the EU. And they will also, no doubt, set up in marginals to replicate the tricks of the smoking lobby in the past. Brexiteers promised that we would be a great target for investment after Brexit. Boris Johnson even has a unit set up to attract businesses. But will it ever be able to do any more than express desperate Brexit hope? You know. And indeed, you know, the hopefuls in the comments here, no doubt. No doubt at all. I'll have people pointing to the new Nissan plant. I have Phil, the new Nissan plant, Brexit benefit. What they're missing here is that the only reason Nissan is expanding their operations, which they were going to do if we were in the EU anyway, is because many of their rivals are pulling out. They said themselves that expansion plans were based on being able to increase their share of the UK market. If those rivals hadn't backed out, they wouldn't be building this. So in terms of the overall industry, car making industry, it's a decline. There's no way a Japanese manufacturer sets up a new factory for the European market in Britain. You know, as a result of Brexit, Japan is one of those countries where, do you know what? If they want to sell to the EU or to the single market, it's easier for them to sell from Japan. Japan has better access to the single market than we do. This is sheer madness. But for every significant piece of new investment, there are many more examples of investment pulling out. I have yet to learn of a single sector of our economy that is growing other than logistics. There's certainly a lot more business in the field of working out how you move goods from A to B now that the government has built an obstacle course to our most important export markets. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.